Mother Nature unleashed her full power last year in a series of devastating climate crises. Countries around the Asia-Pacific were hit especially hard, with floods and drought causing $65 billion worth of damage. China faced the highest financial losses, with insurance covering just 2.5% of the damage, after devastating floods cost the economy at least $32 billion.
Right now, I feel very helpless. The financial damage requires a huge amount of work to fix. Now the business cannot go on. Our products are all submerged and ruined. I'm only asking, why didn't the government notify us?
For the fourth consecutive year, floods have emerged as the most costly natural disaster in the Asia-Pacific. Hong Kong, South Korea, India and Pakistan all experienced extreme weather and record rainfall. These disasters resulted in nearly 2,900 deaths.
Our journey to recovery will be held back by increasing public debt, rising international energy prices, and no real access to adaptation funds.
Towards the end of last year, the region was also rocked by severe earthquakes. These tremors resulted in the loss of more than 1,500 lives and caused damage to over 200,000 homes. Experts say that climate change cost the world some $380 billion in 2023. The price of not adapting for a future where extremes are expected. Tayyibe Aydin, TRT World.
Let's bring in Aditya Bahadur, a climate adaptation expert who joins us live from Delhi in India. How badly, then, has the Asia-Pacific region been impacted financially by the recent surge in climate-related disasters, particularly considering that $65 billion worth of damage caused by recent floods and droughts?
Absolutely. The financial impacts of climate change are immense and extremely widespread. More importantly, it's important to keep in context that the poorest and the most vulnerable, who have done the least to contribute to the emission of greenhouse gases and contributed least to causing climate change, are the ones who suffer these economic impacts the most. Now, the interesting thing is that even though big numbers around financial damages are reported when we have cataclysmic climate events like storms or floods, what is less well understood and less well appreciated are the financial impacts of creeping changes that the climate is bringing. For instance, the loss to labor productivity caused by increasing heat is going to erode many points across the region's GDP over the coming decades and is already doing so. Additionally, downstream economic impacts that might emanate from reduced economic production, say after a flood, are also less well understood. And if we add all these up, we are looking at a massive financial crisis that will go hand in hand with the climate crisis.
And meanwhile, insurance only covers a fraction of all of these financial losses, such as a mere 2.5% in China. What steps are being taken and can be taken to address the inadequacy of coverage?
So insurance is an important solution, but needs to be only one arrow in our quiver of solutions to tackle the financial impacts of climate change. There have been interesting innovations in resilience, but as you've said, coverage hasn't expanded beyond single digits at the moment. But still, there are interesting innovations taking place within the insurance sector, particularly to cover micro and small enterprises. In one really exciting example that was led by a UN agency in collaboration with local NGOs in India, they gave insurance coverage to local street vendors. And they found, naturally, that street vendors that had insurance were able to set up their stalls twice as fast after a windstorm as those street vendors that did not have insurance. So the impact and efficacy of insurance is beyond doubt. All we now need is innovative financial models to spread this at scale. So there are these experiments taking place that will be scaled in time. At the same time, it's important to ensure that insurance is not the only thing we're focusing on. And it is particularly important for private businesses to climate-proof their supply chains, where they need to determine at every stage of an economic production process what they can do to reduce the impacts of climate change. So, for instance, if you're talking about a fast moving consumer good company, can they do something to make sure that the factories are better equipped to deal with floods and storms? And can they ensure that their trucks and their warehouses are adapted to the impacts of climate change? Can they then ensure that the markets where they're selling their goods are also taking into account climate risk? So, insurance needs to go hand in hand with the climate proofing of supply chains to reduce the financial impact of climate change.
Fascinating stuff, Aditya Bhattacharya. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm afraid we're out of time.